Mesdames et messieurs, c'est un plaisir pour moi.
So, thank you very much. It's a great pleasure for me to be here with you today. I'm a representative from UNESCO for the European meeting of literary translation. In this program for Strasbourg, World Capital of the Book for 2024. I would also like to thank the CEATL for the organization of the event, and thanks to initiatives such as this one, we have an opportunity to rethink collectively the policies of book, thinking about linguistic and editorial matters, while being aware of the fundamental role that translation has in the world. So in the course of 2024, Strasbourg as book capital, we have also underscored the very essential role of translators in the development of diversity in our societies. This morning I was talking with Anne-Marie and Francesca and saying that this would be a good moment to make sure that the next World Book Capital should continue with initiatives similar to this one. So this was a key moment to think about literary translation, which is of key importance for our societies. Translation is much more than a simple technique. It plays a major role as a vector for linguistic and cultural changes, and it is also a counterpoint to hatred, ignorance, and violence. Translation is essential to be able to overcome language barriers. Translation is to confront and face the other, to face the unknown. So it's very important to enable us to think about these things in one's own mother tongue. We should also think about the challenges which face us in our own language and those whose languages are endangered. Translation is changing today because of the progress in artificial intelligence. The tools for automatic translation, machine translation, are also making great progress, but they can never, in fact, replace professional translators because they cannot compete with human beings' creativity and knowledge. But this remains one of the most important industries with regard to socio-economic income, but also written culture is very important. Literature is very important with a link to oral culture as well, and a huge contribution to make to cultural diversity. This literature opens up the world, and it is at an epicenter between education and culture. That is where books have their position. And I think it's important to have public policies which support books. And we need to also take strong measures to strengthen this chain of cultural values. We would like to support national and regional initiatives to support reading. We must think of books as a world capital heritage. And this is something that we need to think about in the future. This was why this will also be important for us next year, 2025, Mondia Cult in Spain. I'd like to thank the city of Strasbourg for its commitment as World Capital of the Book this year, and has been able to highlight the crucial role of creative and cultural industries as a bridge between the peoples of the world and an opening to the world.
Voilà. Merci.
Thank you. Thank you for these extraordinary 3 days. Thank you in particular to Pablo for doing us the honor of joining us here. We're very moved to have you here. Thank you to all our speakers. Thank you to our participants here and online. This conference, which we inaugurated with a beautiful ceremony with the writer Georgi Gospodinov and his translators at the Pavillon Joséphine, the panel discussions, the workshops, in such a beautiful building, this shows that we are a community. Our work is important. It is irreplaceable. We've said and thought very interesting things about the circulation of culture, diversity, and linguistic richness. Translators play an essential part, and we must enable them to do their work in conditions that are dignified. I'd like to thank Strasbourg World Book Capital, the Commission, the Parliament, all our partners, all our sponsors, the fantastic team of the European Parliament. I'd like to thank the interpreters, our volunteers, Cécile Deniard, who coordinated this conference, and the wonderful working group of CEATL, Valérie Pruinek, our treasurer, the vice presidents, our secretary, our Danish delegate, and Sean Whiteside and Lara Holbein Markovich. Thank you so much to all the Seattle delegates who helped us. The plenaries have been recorded and will be available soon. But this isn't the end of the story. We meet tonight at the Tommy Umgerer Museum at 6 o'clock for a translation battle. And tomorrow morning there will be guided tours, and at 12:30 we will meet photographer Anja Kerpunkt for her exhibition of portraits of translators. This exhibition is set up in front of the town hall in Strasbourg, so take the opportunity to see that. Thank you once again. Let's stay in touch. Thank you.
Bonjour à tous.
Good afternoon. I'd like to thank Francesca, who, as you probably felt, has been an incredible president with her commitment and her intelligence. I'd like to thank the colleagues of Seattle who worked so hard in organizing this conference, and they asked me to say a few concluding words. On this occasion, I'd like to share a few thoughts with you and tell you about what I felt during the preparation of this event. It has been a very demanding task, but it was a wonderful opportunity to live in a time shelter for a few months, as Georgi Gospodinov might have put it. Georgi Gospodinov, who gave us an inaugural speech on Wednesday. So a time bubble, an enchanted world, where I was constantly in touch with people who, everywhere in Europe, were passionate about translation and literature, and people who were very glad to see what we were trying to build together. And that's what Europe has always been for me. It was always about friendship between various European peoples, but between individuals. And translation is in and of itself about friendship. And you could really feel that friendship watching the dialogue between Georgi Gospodinov and his translators on the inaugural evening. It's an intellectual friendship and an emotional friendship between creators, and Magda Heidel very rightly said so yesterday morning. And you understand why Europe and translation are indissolubly linked in my mind. You will also understand how happy I was every time I got in touch with all the people you have heard, all our speakers whose talent, intelligence, and commitment really forced my admiration. I was so happy to be able to invite them here at the European Parliament, which is very symbolic for me, for these rencontres, these this conference. And here I would point out that, unfortunately, rencontre isn't accurately translated by conference. Conférence in French doesn't convey the same warmth as the word rencontre, encounter. So this is in a way untranslatable. And today, if there's anything I'm frustrated about, it's, and I'm sorry I didn't get to know all of you more closely. Anyway, I hope you were able to network, to make friends, and to enrich your practice. However, there's another feeling which is maybe less visible, less warm, that was also spurring me on. I felt the need to create and consolidate networks of solidarity in order to be able to meet the challenges to come in our countries, in Europe and worldwide, because we know what is outside this time bubble, this time shelter. We all know that nationalism, this arch plague, as Stefan Zweig said, in Exile, in the world of yesterday, nationalism is back. We thought we had overcome it, and it is the polar opposite of the translator's worldview. I know that many forces are doing their best to undermine supranational and international structures that have enabled us to live in relative peace over the past few decades in Europe. I know that censorship is on the rise everywhere in various forms, as we have just heard. I know that language is being instrumentalized and debased, and simple and beautiful terms such as peace, freedom, and democracy are being perverted. And we who have an existential relationship to words and to language, we need to stand up and resist this phenomenon. As Melinda Naj-Ebonji was saying yesterday, a war is not a surgical strike. It's not a surgical operation. And yet, we appear to have come back to a time of wars without a declaration of war, to quote Zweig again, with massive expropriations, population displacements, and bombings of towns. I will quote him again. I was the powerless witness to this terrible regression of humankind into a state of barbarism that we had thought was forgotten long ago, with its anti-humanist dogma raised up as a plan of action. End of quotation. Culture, unfortunately, does not prevent barbarism. History has shown this time and again. However, it's a way of keeping the light on. We are guardians. In France, the translator from Russian, Andrei Markovits, is one of these watchdogs. He deals with current affairs because they need dealing with. And literature is always a support to him, as it is a support for those who read him. Men and women of goodwill cannot prevent wars, but they can pave the way for the future. They unwind Ariadne's thread even when things are darkest. And it is for all of us to find a way to resistance, so that in the end of the day it is truth and justice and beauty that win, that prevail. But I will conclude with the words that Georgi Gospodinov used to end his speech on Wednesday. All of us, writers and translators, which at the end of the day is the same thing, we endeavor to translate, traducere in Latin. We take the reader by the hand, step after step, page after page, and lead him to the shore of another tomorrow.